Good evening. It's November 19th, 2025. It's a little bit after 6 p.m. and you're at the Stanislaus Council of Governments meeting. If you would, please go do a roll call.
Member Chiesa, Member Graywall, Chair Condit.
Here.
Member Condit, Member Withrow. Member Withrow.
Here.
You. Vice Chair Carr.
Here.
Member Swallen.
Here.
Member Escutia Brayton. Here. Member Wright.
Here.
Member Graham.
Here.
Member Gilbert. Here. Member Phillips. Member Gokin.
Here.
Member Hernandez. Member Lopez. One more time.
Here.
And Member Clazel. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. If you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, moving on into the agenda, it is time for public comment. Members of the public may address the policy board on any item not on the agenda, and comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. 5-minute time limit. I have one speaker card for public comment, and that's Carolyn Newman.
Hello. I'm actually here for, I'm here for, on behalf of the Stanislaus County Taxpayer Association, of which I am a member of the board. We are having an affordability town hall meeting tomorrow night from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at 931, which is at 931 10th Street. And it'll be featuring Supervisor Withrow. It's part civics lesson, part town hall, so that more citizens can get to know their leadership, how the government is structured, so that when they have an issue, they know which way to go to ask questions and get good answers.
Thank you, Carolyn. That's the only public comment card that I have. Is there any other member of the audience that would like to make a public comment on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. I'm sorry, anything online? All right, next on the agenda is public hearing, draft 2026 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, RTIP. Jose Luis.
Good evening. I'm going to be reading from a script because what I'm going to say is going to be translated to Spanish. My name is Jose Luis Cáceres. I'm the Director of Programming and Program Delivery for the Stanislaus Council of Governments. This item is a public hearing for the draft 2026 Regional Transportation Improvement Program. Staff recommends that, after a presentation in English and Spanish, that the Policy Board hold a public hearing. Next slide. Oh, I don't think okay, never mind. Every 2 years, all the regions in California must adopt a Regional Transportation Improvement Program, and RTIP. There's going to be several acronyms, and submit it to the state for approval. Once approved, the RTIPs all become part of one STIP, the State Transportation Improvement Program. And our RTIP is due December 15th. So why is the RTIP important? Because the RTIP is the way we decide how to use or program our region's share of Regional Improvement Program funds in the STIP, which is called the RIP STIP. There are only $8,876,000 of RIP STIP funds available for programming in the 2026 RTIP. They are all in the last 2 years, which are federal fiscal years 2930 and 3031. We rely on the Measure L strategic plan adopted by the Policy Board to guide the priorities of RIP STIP programming, and the Policy Board in that Measure L strategic plan prioritizes State Route 132 West for RIP STIP funding. We would normally program these funds to State Route 132 West, specifically the 99-132 interchange, except that the California Transportation Commission requires projects to be fully funded, and our project is not yet fully funded. Therefore, the 2026 RTIP does not contain any capital projects except the usual set aside for planning, programming, and monitoring, which is programmed at $1,222,000, which averages to about $244,000 per year over the 5 years. So I'm going to get into next steps. Right now, we're in the middle of the public comment period, which runs from November 5th to December 5th. Staff will analyze and respond to all public comments to develop the final draft of the 2026 RTIP. Next, the policy board will vote on the final version at its December 7th meeting. Our last action will be to submit the final 2026 RTIP to the California Transportation Commission by their deadline of December 15th. And after that, it will be the CTC's turn. CTC staff will analyze our RTIP, which they can accept or reject for inclusion in the draft 2026 STIP. The CTC will send out that draft STIP for public review, hold public hearings, and take final action in March the 19th through 20th, 2026. So tonight is just one way for the public to provide comments. The public can also write, call, or email to provide comments. My contact information is in the public hearing, and if anyone here needs it, I can provide it. Now I would like to introduce our translator, Roberto Rodrigan, who will translate the information I just presented into Spanish.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es José Luis Cáceres, soy el director de... I'm sorry.
There you go.
Okay. Buenas noches, mi nombre es José Luis Cáceres, soy el director de programación e implementación de programas del Consejo de Gobierno de Estanislaos. Este punto de la reunión es la audiencia pública sobre el Plan Preliminar de Mejoramiento del Transporte, RTIEP, por sus siglas en inglés, del año 2026. El personal recomienda que después de esta presentación en inglés y español, el Comité de Políticas abra esta junta al público. Cada 2 años, todas las regiones de California deben adoptar un programa regional de mejoramiento de transporte, RTIP, y presentarlo al Estado para su aprobación. Una vez aprobados, todos los RTIPs se incorporan al Programa Estatal de Mejoramiento al Transporte, o STIP, por sus siglas en inglés. Debemos someter nuestro RTIP antes del 15 de diciembre. ¿Por qué es tan importante el RTIP? Porque el RTIP es la herramienta que determina cómo utilizar o programar los fondos asignados a nuestra región por medio del Programa Regional de Mejoramiento del Transporte, RTIP, dentro del plan estatal, que a este punto se ha convertido en el RIP-STIP. Solo hay $8.876.000 en fondos en este RIP-STIP disponibles para programación dentro del RTIP del año 2026 y todos corresponden a los 2 últimos años fiscales, vale decir el 2029 al 30 y del 30 al 31. Nos basamos en el plan estratégico de la medida L adoptado por el Comité de Política para definir las prioridades del programa ahora estatal, RIP-STIP, y en dicho plan, el Comité de Políticas prioriza la Ruta Estatal 132 Oeste para financiarlo con dineros del RIP-STIP. Normalmente, programaríamos estos fondos para la Ruta Estatal 132 y, además, para el empalme de la 99 con la 132. Pero la Comisión de Transporte de California, o CTC, exige que los proyectos que se incluyen estén financiados de un solo viaje, y ese empalme aún no lo está. Por lo tanto, el RITIP del año 2026 no propone ningún proyecto, salvo la reserva habitual de $1.222.000 para la planificación, programación y seguimiento, lo que equivale a un promedio de $244.400 anuales durante los siguientes 5 años. Aquí hablamos de los próximos pasos. En este momento nos encontramos en pleno periodo abierto al comentario público, que se extiende del 5 de noviembre al 5 de diciembre. El personal analizará y responderá a todos los comentarios del público antes de elaborar la propuesta final del RITP del año 2026. Posteriormente, el Comité de Políticas votará para aprobar la versión final en su reunión del 10 de diciembre. Nuestra última acción será presentar el RITP de 2026 final a la Comisión de Transporte de California, o CTC, antes de la fecha límite, que es el 15 de diciembre. Después será el turno de la CTC. El personal de la CTC analizará nuestro RITP, el cual podrá aceptarlo o rechazarlo para su inclusión en la propuesta del SITP del año 2026. Para ello, abrirán el SITP Para comentarlo, celebrarán audiencias públicas y para el 19 o 20 de marzo del 2026 tomarán la decisión final. La junta de esta noche es solo una de las formas para recabar opiniones. El público también puede telefonear, escribir o enviar correos electrónicos para someter sus comentarios. En pantalla pueden tomar nota de la información para comunicarse con el comité. Yo estoy aquí para interpretar sus comentarios en inglés. Mr. Chair, ¿hay alguna pregunta en español? Okay, hearing none from the Spanish-speaking audience, it is not back for you to open the audience.
Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you.
Any questions from the policy board? All right, okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing of the draft 2026 Regional Transportation Improvement Program. Would anybody like to make public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, anything online? Okay. Go ahead and close and bring it back. There is no vote on this one, and Jose, I thought you were going to add something to it. Don't worry. Okay. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. Is any policy board member like to pull anything on consent?
Yeah, I'd like item 6C pulled for individual consideration.
Okay, 6C. Any member of the public like to make comment on anything on consent? Okay. I'll entertain a motion of consent calendar except for C.
So move.
I have a first.
Second.
I have a second. I'll go ahead and do roll call, please.
Chair Condit?
Aye.
Member Withrow?
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr?
Aye.
Member Swallen?
Aye.
Member Escutia Brayton? Aye. Member Wright?
Aye.
Member Graham? Member Graham?
Aye.
Member Gookin?
Yes.
And Member Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have a.
Member Gilbert is here.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Member Gilbert.
We're all good to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. 6C. Member Gokin, did you have comment on 6C? Is that,
Well, I just, same thing when we talked about in closed session. I think $300 an hour, which comes out to over $600,000 a year, is a bit excessive for a executive director. And I'd just like to say I oppose this just like I did in closed session.
all right, thank you. All right. I'll entertain a motion.
So that would be 2,080 hours of time if she was working full-time, right? When you say
Correct.
1,000, it's 2,080 hours, and that's, we don't anticipate that to be the scenario here.
Right. So if she works 1,000 hours, she gets paid 300,000 and something. I mean, $300,000 for a part-time job is pretty good.
Pardon me, I wonder if it would be appropriate to have a presentation on this item since it was pulled and should be explained somewhat.
Want to go over the contract? Monica?
Sure. Members of the board, the item before you is the professional services agreement with Kate M Consultancy. That is a limited liability company created by the interim executive director, Kate Miller. The terms of the agreement provide for Kate M Consultancy, for Hancock to enter into a contract with Kate M Consultancy and for services for the interim executive director to be provided specifically through Kate Miller. It is not assignable. It is not transferable. It's a contract that is being entered into specifically for Ms. Miller's particular expertise. During the term of the agreement, which is from the effective date of November 3rd, through when a permanent executive director is hired, Ms. Miller will be providing interim executive director services. Her fees are, as noted by Member Gokin, $300 per hour, and travel expenses between Modesto and Napa and lodging and meal expenses provided in certain instances, all of which have to be approved by the chair of the policy board. Those specific instances include if there's inclement weather. We are in the winter season, and we know that the travel between Napa and Modesto could involve fog, rain, and other things which may make the travel more difficult. Late evening and or early morning meetings and other circumstances is deemed prudent. Again, all of which would be approved at the discretion of the chair of the policy board. The consultant will bill the agency twice a month for any costs incurred. She does have the relevant insurance, and we have received her certificates of insurance, and those are the basic terms of the agreement. There was a delegation for this particular item to negotiate this particular contract and then bring it back to approval for the full board in open session, and that is why the item is on the consent calendar this evening. And I'm happy to address any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. I do understand that this policy board also did approve the delegation of discussion and final recommendation to the policy board to a task force.
An ad hoc.
Ad
committee,
hoc.
correct?
Ad hoc committee, correct. Thank you for that correction. What did that conversation look like? What information were they presented that is different than what we were presented? What are highlights that they discussed that we should know of so that we could make an informed decision for this particular consent item?
I would defer to members of the ad hoc committee. I did partake in one conversation, and the information presented in the contract and the staff report is consistent with that conversation. But again, if there are any members of the ad hoc, they can provide additional.
I'm the only one here, and I was not.
Can you
at
speak
the-
closer to the mic, please?
Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm the only member of the ad hoc committee present. Unfortunately, I was not in attendance at the interview due to medical reasons at home. So the other two members, Manny Raywall and Rachel Hernandez, are not here to address that issue.
I'm just going to jump in here real quick. So I think we looked at this in closed session. We all agreed to it. I think at the time that we thought this, and I respect Charlie's opinion on it. I just look at this as this is a consultant. We're not paying health insurance. We're not paying retirement plan benefits. You know, fully burdened is usually 130 to 140% of the salary that we don't have to pay as part of this. And like, again, I respect Charlie's opinion on this. But I think the rest of us agreed to this in closed session, that this was the contract that we agreed to, and I will support it, and I'll make a motion to approve.
So my understanding, this is interim while we look for a permanent. So this is a 2 or 3 month situation instead of a full employment for a year or two. I think that's something to understand, in that it does, to have somebody come out of the intern from a company, it does cost a little bit more than it would be if you were to bring on somebody full time.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Make a comment to add to that. And I know my feeling at the time when we had the discussion is, considering the circumstances of this agency that we're currently in, we made the decision to have someone that has a lot of experience and brings that immediately to this agency in the interim period. And I will speak only for myself, felt very fortunate that we had someone with Kate's ability to bring to this agency and help us through this time with her knowledge and decades-long experience of doing transportation work. So I'm in support of it, and I would second Member Withrow's motion.
I have a first and a second.
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else has had the opportunity, but I was able to have a one-on-one meeting with Ms. Miller. It was a very productive meeting. What she prescribed to me as coming in. She is very qualified, wants to make this organization successful, wants to turn it around, is very much in favor of transparency, which I gave her a lot of credit for. So if anybody else has had any meetings with her, I would encourage you to say yay or nay. But in my conversations with her, all the information she gave me, all the insight that she gave me from her experience, I think we are getting a highly qualified individual. And I think it is very awarding that we go ahead and agree on the contract.
Thank you. Go ahead, Charlie.
If I could, I mean, I've never met Ms. Miller. I've seen her qualifications and I believe she's highly qualified. My only issue is with how much we're paying her.
Okay, I have a first and a second.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No.
Is that amount a fixed amount or is it an up to amount?
$300 an hour.
It's an hourly rate.
Okay. Again, though, are we dictating a set amount of hours to be worked? Or are we saying we are agreeing to pay up to a certain amount of hours at the cap of $600,000?
The interim executive director has the discretion to determine the amount of hours to work to address the items that are before the agency. Currently, and Ms. Miller, if she wanted to, could address this, but she's working about 3 days a week in the office.
Okay, so based on what you said, Ms. Streeter, it sounds like it's up. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to pay out $600,000. It means we've agreed or we're proposing to pay up to that amount based on the hours she submits.
So it's $300 an hour dependent, and then it's multiplied by the number of hours she works. She's been here for 3 weeks now, and at present she's been working, and correct me if I'm mistaken, Kate, 3 days a week in the office.
But we would not pay more than $600,000.
Oh, she's
Well,
not a full-time job.
Right, so it's up to that amount.
but I think the contract actually reads Monica up to 32 hours a week. And I haven't, I think 1 week I did that, but the other weeks I haven't been doing that. Next week will be 2 days because of holidays. This week, maybe I'm doing no more than 3 days because I had a vacation schedule. So it's going to vary, but up to 32 hours. And I think what I probably would do is reach out to the chair and vice chair if for some extraordinary reason I needed to work more than that. But I think it'd probably be over a billing period. There's definitely not going to be more than 64 hours.
All right. Thank you, Kate. I have a first and a second. Will you do a roll call, please?
Chair Condit,
Aye.
Member Withrow,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Aye.
Member Swallen,
Aye.
Member Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Member Wright,
Aye.
Member Graham,
Aye.
Member Gilbert,
No.
Member Gokin,
No,
Member Lopez.
I will abstain.
Pardon?
I will abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, moving on to presentation, legislative report, into session review. Gus, are you online?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for unmuting me. Good evening, Mr. Chair and policy board members. Gus Corey, your state legislative advocate. Pleasure to be with you here this evening. Look forward to seeing more of you in person sometime soon. I just want to give you a brief update on legislative activities, kind of where we are with the legislative season, some of our accomplishments, and then things that we're focused on going into 2026. And so the legislature had adjourned the first year of the regular session on September 13th. The governor's bill signing period had concluded on October 13th. And so the legislature is actually out of session until January 5th. But there has been some activity since, including today. The Legislative Analyst's Office estimates that the legislature is looking at a fiscal year 26-27 state budget deficit of $18 billion. This is about $6 billion more than what the Department of Finance was forecasting. And we'll clearly wait to see what happens with receipts as they come in. The general fund is basically predicated upon receiving revenues from capital gains, from corporate taxes and personal income tax. And there's been wild fluctuations, I think, as we're all aware, with the markets. And so we'll see what happens here. If we finish strong, up until the governor actually releases his proposed budget for 26-27, and that release is constitutionally required by January 10th. And so we'll keep you apprised there. We had a pretty productive year. It was really great for StanCog. Back in June, we were able to secure $82 million worth of funding from the state. That's thanks in large part to the hard work of the board, StanCog staff, Mr. Harris with Point C. We got $15 million for the 7th Street Bridge replacement project, and then $66 million for State Route 132 as we make progress on that priority for our county. And then there was also an award for a charging station in the city of Modesto. So that was productive. Legislatively as well, StanCog had worked really hard in order to get compliance with the California Air Resources Board. It's critical to do so because in order to maintain our eligibility to access these state funds, we have to be able to get what's referred to as a sustainable community strategy adopted by the Air Resources Board. And it takes the totality of all of our needs within the county, our multimodal investments, and it's geared at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And we came up with something that was really, we were tip of the spear, I'll say, on having a VMT mitigation bank, which the state took, and it's now state law to allow developers to pay into a fund to help compel more affordable housing within the region, to help develop more transit-oriented development. I know we've invested heavily into passenger rail and transit, and so it was good to see the state kind of follow our lead with some of our thinking there. And that, again, is kudos to the policy board and staff. The legislature did extend the cap. It was cap and trade. Now it's called cap and invest. This is the auction program where auctions are purchased in order to drive down greenhouse gas emissions, invested back into programs to help things like public transit for operations in capital needs. We've been heavily successful with some of these programs. We've gotten over $1 billion for the ACE system through one of them, the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. So that's going to continue for another 15 years. We advocated at the last minute. There was a sentiment to punt until next year, but the auctions were going down with the lack of the market certainty. And we all weighed in along with our sister counties in the valley, and it really did help move the needle on getting that program solidified. And so what we're looking forward to now is we did receive one-time funding from the state through Senate Bill 125. It was a total of $63 million, which our board had approved various allocations to some of the priority projects, and we have not received the full balance of those funds. And so this is one of the things that we want to make sure that now that there is stability with the program, that the state can make good on honoring its previous commitments, which we are relying on to build things like, RTA's, maintenance facility. So that's sort of a preview of what we're looking at going forward. The gas tax successor source, we had the presentation with you a couple months ago. Lots of conversation there as far as what we do. We're fighting for every last dollar to leverage our Measure L dollars to expedite project delivery. And so we'll look forward to working with you and the StanCog Exec Committee. We hope to have a draft platform for your review in the coming weeks, and then hopeful adoption in January. We always like taking inventory of what the governor proposes in the January budget. And so that'll tee up an opportunity to go to Sacramento, as we typically do, to talk to our delegation and the Newsom administration about our priorities. And I very much appreciate the participation this year by you, Mr. Chair, Mayor Zwellen, Member Escudia Brayton, Mayor Lopez, among others, that are always accessible and do a great job of supporting our priorities, not just for Stancog, but really for the San Joaquin Valley. And it's really made a big difference in us being able to secure some of these successes. And so I'll stop right there, Mr. Chair, and I'm happy to answer any questions or comments that you or other policy board members may have.
All right, thank you, Gus. Any questions for Gus on his update? Go ahead, Rosa.
Hi, Gus. Thank you for the report. We are in good hands with you. I know that. With the cap and trade, with the approval of the funding for the cap and trade, now the cap and invest program, I seem to recall the original program allocated 20% of the funding, correct me if I'm wrong, to go towards the high-speed rail program. And it was, when it was redone, it now changed that to not 20%, but to 1 billion?
Correct.
And has that remained the same, or is that changed?
Yeah, through the chair. So you're correct, Member Scudia Brayton. So there used to be continuous appropriations for various pots of money. So High Speed Rail used to receive 25% of all proceeds that materialized. And then the Transit Capital Intercity Rail program, which I mentioned, which we've benefited from, was 10%. There was a pot for transit operations at 5%. And what they did is they just made everything a line item. And then there's a priority order. So High Speed Rail's in the first tier for priority. So they get their $1 billion off the top. And then the second tier is there's a legislative appropriation pot of $1 billion. There's a new program of $125 million for free transit passes. And that's something that we want to speak to in our development of our 2026 platform. And then the third tier is maintaining the line items, which are the equivalent of what the continuous appropriation is, except it's a ceiling and not a percentage or a floor, if you will, that roughly matches the percentages that they used to get. But first, High Speed Rail's got to get its money, the legislature gets its money, and then it's really predicated on what happens with the auction proceeds to make everybody else whole.
Yeah. So more work to be done on that, but okay, thank you for that clarification. I wasn't sure. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I would just like, on the legislation changes, item 6 that's listed here, SB 71, if you could give just a brief description of how that might affect us, meaning the removing the existing 2030 sunset from the CEQA.
Yes. So through the chair, that's a great question, Mayor. So what SB 71 does is for active transportation types of activities or complete streets where you have to restripe or there's some kind of signaling, or if a transit system wants to reestablish service, they get rid of the CEQA requirements for that. And then the bill actually went a step further for passenger rail, as well. So for ACE and for others, there's an exemption that goes out for, say, Tier 4 equipment, which, there's a lot of talk about changing fuel sources, but Tier 4 is basically the cleanest diesel locomotives that are out there. So it makes it permissible to operate those out until 2035 or 2040, if I'm not mistaken. So it gives us a lot more flexibility and it reduces cost in us being able to bring these projects online to meet statewide and regional priorities.
Great, thank you. And then the other one, SB 707, which I know, and Monica might be able to answer that one more, and how it would affect, especially for the members of the public that are here regarding our StanCog meetings.
Yes.
Is there any change for us?
There will be a presentation on any changes that will be affected by SB 07 in December.
Great. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Gus? All right. Thank you, Gus, for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, policy board members. And congrats, Kate. I've worked with her for 20 years. She's phenomenal. I'm really excited to work with her.
Kate, did you hear that? All right. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. We're going to be we have another member that's en route that would like to be here and should be here within the next 10 minutes or so. So we're going to skip 8A at this moment and go to 8B. which is the motion to adopt Resolution 25-33, approving the revised fiscal year 2024-25 State of Good Repair project list allocations. Jean Filetta.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll wait for them to catch up. There we go. Next slide, please. Yes, so this report is actually asking to reprogram some funds that we inadvertently funded to Stan RTA, which should have been funded to Turlock or programmed to Turlock. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background on the State of Good Repair program. It provides over $105 million annually and statewide. It supports transit maintenance, rehabilitation, and capital projects to maintain systems in good repair. The funds are distributed to regional transportation planning agencies using service-based and population-based formulas. Eligible projects are maintain or repair transit vehicles and facilities, design, acquire, or construct vehicle facilities that improve existing service, and support transit services that complement local transportation improvements. Next slide. So this is how the annual process works. In January, the State Controller Office releases a preliminary State of Good Repair estimate for the upcoming fiscal year. Then January to July, StanCog meets with the local transit operators to discuss funding and project priorities. In August, the State Controller's Office issued a revised estimate based on updated revenue data. And in September, StanCog submits a board-approved project list to Caltrans. Next slide. So this slide shows what it looked like initially. The inadvertent allocation to Stan RTA was $70,000, which should have been put towards Turlock. Next slide. We're reallocating that 70,000 from Stan RTA to Turlock. And then the adjustment will amend the FY 2024-2025 State of Good Repair project list allocation. Then in August, the SCO released an updated revenue estimate, like I showed in the timeline slide, for FY 24-25. So we're going to put that in here too, to find an updated estimates which reflect an overall increase of 63,752. The next slide, please. So this is the final slide, which shows the corrected allocations. You can see that now Turlock has its 70,000, and there's a little bit more for Stan RTA and Turlock based on that extra 60,000 that we just discussed. This item was taken to the executive committee where it passed unanimously, and that concludes the report. I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Jean. Any questions for Jean?
I think, Mr. Chair, I don't think we have a representative from Turlock here, and I think you must be present to win. I think, isn't that part of the thing? So possibly we could reallocate these funds since Turlock is not here tonight? Okay, just wanted to float that. See if
Adam's smiling over there, so.
Any questions, Policy Board, for Jean? All right, any public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Can I do a all in favor? Or do we? Okay, do need a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion. I got a first. I have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous.
So this one is me too.
Yeah, 8C.
Yep.
Fiscal year 26-27 unmet transit needs. Process kickoff, Jean Filetta.
Great, thank you. So yes, this is the kickoff to our annual unmet transit needs process. Give a little background for those that might be new to this. This unmet transit needs process is a requirement of the TDA, Transportation Development Act. which requires us to do this annually. Some of the requirements includes a public hearing, outreach, and then we need to determine if there are any transit needs that are reasonable to meet. We need to prepare a Met Transit Need Analysis Report. Next slide, please. This slide goes over some of the Social Service Transit Advisory Committee's bylaws, which I'm not going to read to you, but it's part of our bylaws. Next slide. Here, I do want to point out A, B, and C. So part of what we have to do annually is review and recommend the comments that we give and get from the public and determine if there are any unmet transit needs or there are any unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet, or if there's any unmet transit needs, including needs that are reasonable to meet. And I'll explain that a little bit in an upcoming slide. So to maximize our outreach efforts this year, we're going to have social media, which we did last year, and that was really good. We have a new transit planner that you'll be introduced to later on, who's going to be pivotal in making the outreach efforts a little bit more robust than they have been the last couple of years. And what we've been doing the last couple of years, we coordinate with Move, who is out on the buses regularly. Their staff is out on the buses doing what they call travel training. And so they're interacting with passengers that are taking the bus, and they hand out the flyers that we make for them. And on the flyers, there's a little QR code that links them over to the survey that we asked them to take for the unmet transit needs. Next slide. So these are some of the in-person places that we will be going. We're still developing this list, but we have Ceres City Council, Oakdale City Council, the Area Agency on Aging will also be presenting at the Stan RTA board meeting, and then more as we see fit given the staff we have. So the public comment process began on November 12th and will conclude on January 22nd, 2026. Next slide. So what's next? We do all this outreach for that period of time, couple months. We take all the comments that we get, we compile them into one, and we establish if they're reasonable to meet. And so reasonable to meet would mean that you get comments all over the place. You get comments that ask for, I've seen comments that ask for service in the middle of the night to go to work, and there's one or two people that need that. You can serve that a different way, or you can get a comment that we had here a few years ago that asked for door-through-door services for seniors, and that's how Move got started. So that was a reasonable to meet comment, and we fund that before we fund anything else. Then we take that, we prepare.
If we could just have you pause for a minute.
Oh,
Like we had some technical.
there we go.
We all good to go again? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so we prepare a report based on what we found. Part of what we do in deciding whether a transit need is reasonable to meet is we look at those comments, and then we'll often interact with our transit agencies to ask them any questions that we might have based on the comments that we're getting, and then we take take all that to our Social Services Technical Advisory Committee to approve. After that, after it's approved by the stack, we take it to the policy board for approval. And then this is how the TDA funds are distributed. After all of these things happen, the basis of this unmet transit needs is to fund the transit agencies. So next slide, please. I sort of went through this one, so I'm not going to do that again. This item was taken to the Social Service Technical Advisory Committee and it passed unanimously. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Jean? Any public comment on this
Just want to
agenda?
make one comment to Gene. I
Go
know
ahead.
that you had us scheduled for November, but we ended up canceling that second meeting. So I think our next city council meeting will be December 8th.
Okay, we'll look at that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, any other from policy board? All right, public comment on this agenda item? Anything on? Okay, okay, that was informational. I'll bring it back to the board, just informational. Thank you, Jean.
You're welcome.
All right, the next, we're going to be going back to 8A. Consider and adopt resolutions of necessity to acquire real property or an interest in real property by eminent domain for the State Route 132 West project for the following parcels, and they are on the agenda. Tony Harris.
Good evening, directors. My name is Tony Harris, Manager of Strategic Project Delivery here at Stancock. Next slide, please. I'm going to walk through in this presentation and we're going to go through and first go through the project description for the State Route 132 West, the items that need to be considered for a resolution necessity that are required. Then I'm going to summarize those findings as it relates to the Pacific parcels and then present the staff recommendations for your consideration. Next. This shows the limits of the State Route 132 West project, which goes from Needham Street to Gates Road. It is basically to create a 4-lane expressway with interchanges through the quarter. Next. The items that we are going to be sending tonight are related to the Gates Road to Dakota portion, and the scope of that improvement is a 2-lane expressway. And so all the resolution necessity items tonight are specifically related to Dakota to Gates. Next. This slide is to point out that what you see in blue is right-of-way that Caltrans has previously acquired for this project in particular. Stancock is currently in the process of acquiring the right-of-way that is shown in orange overall. Next. So in order to adopt a resolution necessity, you as a board needs to consider and find this for each of the resolution necessities that are required for each individual parcel. First, that there is a public interest and necessity that's required for the project, that the project is planned and located that is in a manner that is most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury. The property should be acquired as necessary for the project and that an offer has been made to the owner or owners in accordance with government code. Next. So first, public interest and necessity requires the project. The State Route 132 West project will improve mobility through the western part of the county. It is also going to improve capacity for the regional movements of traffic and goods. It would improve the circulation on the surrounding local streets along with connectivity to State Route 132, and it will continue to provide route continuity for State Route 132 and ultimately with Highway 99. Next. For consideration that is planned in a manner that is most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury, the draft environmental document considered 5 different alternatives, including no build. There was planning and analysis done on each one of those alternatives, including community input and public hearing to go through that process. And the impacts were considered and weighed and mitigated to the best extent possible. Caltrans approved the environmental document and the route adoption April 21st, 2022. And that approval confirmed the alignment 2 as the preferred alternative for the project. Next. Property sought to be acquired that's necessary for the project. These are listed in your agenda, but specifically tonight we'll be discussing the property that's owned by the Garcias. The property is owned by the Cordozas, the Henriquez, Corsmar, Johnston's property as well. Next slide, please. The Garcia-Les partnership and also the Gonsalvo's property and the Verber property along with Acevedo. Next slide. There's additional parcels that's owned by the Acevedo family, then also property owned by the Wolves and also by the Bray. Next. This slide shows you exactly where those previous parcels that I had on the previous slide are located within the quarter overall. So, and we will have individual slides that you can focus on as I go forward within the presentation. So first for this parcel, the Garcia's property, this basically shows that it's a partial acquisition. You see the purple kind of up near the top, and it's needed for the actual realignment of Paradise Road to tie back into Mace Boulevard, which is part of the scope of the project. This is the Cardozo property, and this also is related to the realignment of Paradise Road to tie back into Mace Boulevard. It's needed for that realignment. Also, there's a drainage basin that will be constructed as part of the project as well. And it's again a partial acquisition. Next. The Henriquez property. This property is needed as the main alignment for the expressway goes through this, and it's actually where the previous drawing where you saw it kind of curves to the bottom of the page. This is where the property is, where we go through and tie back into existing State Route 132. There's also drainage facilities that's needed as well. Next. On this particular one with the Quaresma property is basically, it shows part of the alignment that's needed for the main line. You will also see here that in blue, part of the property was previously acquired by Caltrans in the past. So the additional property was shown in the kind of yellowish color that's needed for the project. Next. For the Garcia-Les partnership, near the top, you will see brown. It's a partial acquisition. The above part up there is right-of-way that is already owned by Caltrans. So this is additional right-of-way that's needed to construct a cul-de-sac turnaround at Butler Road, but also some drainage facilities along the main line of State Route 132. Next. The Gonsalvo's property, this is in the vicinity of Hart Road. Hart Road is constructed as a project will be a elevated overcrossing that would go over the new State Route 132. Additional properties needed for the embankment to raise up Hart Road and build the bridges, but also for drainage facilities as we move forward the project. Next. Additional property, different parcels from the Gonsalvo's family. This is a lawn adjacent to the main line of State Route 132. Significant amount of this right-of-way was previously acquired by Caltrans. What you see in blue is additional right-of-way that's needed for related drainage facilities to go along with the State Route 132. Again, similar with the Gonsalvo's family, another parcel there, a similar situation. This is just, west of Hart. This right-of-way on the upper side of the page previously acquired by Caltrans, but there's additional right-of-way needed for drainage-related improvements on the State Route 132 new project. Next. On the Verbeck property, this is also in the vicinity of Hart Road. This is, again, related to Hart Road overcrossing being elevated, needing the embankment. There are also drainage facilities associated with this as well. And this, again, is a partial acquisition as part of the project. The Acevedo property, and you'll see there are several parcels here. This is a little bit hard to see. I kind of wish we had put it in a different color. This is along Hart Road, is up near the top. Thank you for zooming in, where you see the proposed county right-of-way area. Again, we have to build embankment to raise Hart Road up, to go up and over. So there's right-of-way that's needed to accommodate that part of the project. Next. Another parcel related to Acevedo family, you see it in brown. Again, this is just east of Hart Road. The part that's parallel to Hart Road is for the actual construction of the Hart Road overcrossing and an embankment. And then the part that's parallel to the new alignment of State Route 132, which is adjacent to right-of-way Caltrans previously required, is needed for the mainline improvements along with drainage-related facilities. This one in particular, again, with the Acevedo family, this is also Hart Road. And this is on the west side of Hart Road where Hart Road has to be elevated. And so this is for the embankment that's necessary to build a Hart Road overcrossing. Next. The Wolf family, I'll pause for a minute. Okay. All right. With the Wolf family here in particular, you will see that this is a parcel that's needed for the actual mainline construction of the facility itself. This is an area that Caltrans did not acquire previously, but now needs to be acquired as the project goes through that area in particular overall. There's also access road that needs to be built to allow access to different parcels adjacent to them. Next. And again, here the Brave family, this is a partial acquisition. It's an acquisition that's needed for the main line with some drainage-related facilities. There is an adjacent parcel that currently now has an access road that we need to reconstruct to continue to ensure that there's access to all of the parcels within the area. Next. One of the requirements to adopt a resolution of necessity is that we're required to have made an offer to the owners of record in accordance with government code. What you will see listed on this slide and the following slides are each of the individual property owners and the date the offers were made. So we have listed there for each one of the owners, the Garcias, the Cardozas, the Henriquez, the Quaresmas, and Johnsons. You go to the next page is Garcia, La Partners, Gonsalves, the Vernberg, Acevedos, and the next slide, continue with Acevedos, the Wolf, and the Bray. Next. So staff is recommending that the policy board find that the public interest and necessity requires the State Route 132 project. We also recommend that you find that the project is planned and located in a manner that's most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. We find that also that the properties are needed for the project, and each one of the parcel numbers along with owners are listed there. And this finding is required for each individual parcel as you go through a resolution of necessity. Next. And also this continued on from the previous one. So this again continue to list all of the properties that I discussed previously within the presentation. Find also that offers as required by government code have been made to the parcel owners that are needed to be acquired. And then finally recommending that the board adopt resolution necessities in a form attached to your staff report. And there's resolution necessities that are for each individual parcel that we are asking the board to actually adopt. Next. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Tony? Go ahead.
Hey, Tony. The offers that have been made to the property owners, those were done with a appraisal showing the value of the property. So the owners were given fair appraisal, fair value for their property.
Yes, when we made the offer to them, we actually attached the appraisals so they would have the information for their consideration.
And these are owners that are saying, no, they don't want to accept that.
Not necessarily totally at this point. The project, as was mentioned earlier, received construction funding from the California Transportation Commission. That funding is available in fiscal year 25-26. which requires us to complete all the right-of-way and go back to the commission and have them allocate that construction before June 30th, 2026. We are continuing to communicate and negotiate with property owners, but in order to ensure that we meet the schedule, we needed to move forward with the resolution necessity and continue in parallel track because the time it takes to go through the court process.
Thank you.
Have any of the landowners utilized the money for their own appraisal that you?
We have property owners that are currently getting their own appraisal and or have gotten their own appraisal, and they are entitled to be reimbursed up to $5,000 for the cost of their appraisals. So we actually continue to work with them, and some property owners in the quarter are providing counter offers as we continue to work through. Our intent is to work in good faith to reach agreement. It's just that with the timeline we have to move forward with the construction funding, we needed to work in parallel.
Just to reinforce that again, Tony, so that this in no way is to a point where offers are final. There's still a lot of negotiations still to go on here. This is just, as you said, it has to do with the time frame that we're looking at. And we've got to, like you said, work in parallel as we continue to negotiate, that we need to continue to have these steps in place so that we don't lose the funding.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tony before we open up to the public? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and open up for public comment. I do have one comment card from Vernon Verberg.
Sorry, I'm
Sure.
not Vern, by the way. He had to step out, dairy business, so he had to take that phone call. I was hoping he'd be back in by now. May I speak?
Absolutely.
And if he comes back in, he can jump in on it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So my name is Marianne Verberg. I've only been in the Verberg clan for about 25 years. My husband, however, has been born and raised on this dairy at 1142 North Hart Road. So he's been out there for 54 years. My father-in-law, who acquired it from his parents, matter of fact, dating back to when the easement, which is between our property and Manuel and Sherry Azevedo, we call it the state property. That easement was acquired back in 1966, I believe September 14th to be exact. And so this property has been in the family for a very long time. Mine and Vernon's daughter is fourth generation. So this property, with this coming through, we understand progress, but coming through on family property that has been a livelihood for going on 60 years, it's not an easy one to swallow. And I'm only talking, I've only been out there for 20. There's been individuals out in our neighborhood who have been out there a lot longer. And when we see that this is how much property that this is going to take, not just from us, or there's other people that are going to be suffering more so, that, our property alone, if I want to break it down in the paperwork, was I say only 286,362 square feet, which if my calculations, it's about, give or take, approximately 6 acres. However, when we are looking at a dairy, you can, I don't know if anybody's here been raised in the country, worked in the country, okay? There are certain guidelines that we have to go by. Specifically for a dairy, we can only have so many head per acreage. So this acreage that is being taken for this progressive expansion is actually going to be taking away not just the property, but also how many cows we can have, which means how much we can produce, which means how much feed. All of that is factored in. Now, it may only seem like 286,000 feet to those that are wanting to take it, but there's still property that is attached to that is not going to be farmable because we cannot farm within certain areas with this expansion. And I'm sorry, I don't have a map. I wish I could have somebody do a PowerPoint for me, but we don't have one. Also, when there's other routes that are being I know that this has already been voted on, but there were 3 other routes that could have been done. And I understand that people are saying, oh, this is the one that's going to impact the least. When you're thinking of farmland, you're taking farmland to make progress with asphalt. But you can't get farmland back once asphalt has been laid down. And there's other ways to go about it, in my opinion, where fewer houses could have been taken, and those individuals can be relocated. You cannot relocate a dairy. You cannot relocate almond trees. You can't do that if this progress continues to happen. The other thing that crosses my mind is, about every 5 to 10 years, expansion happens again. So what's going to happen again on 132 when expansion needs to happen? Just throwing it out there. Pretty soon, there's not going to be much to farm. And that's what this valley is known for, is agriculture that's just being taken away. I also think about the infrastructure. I mean, I understand the drainage pipes that need to go in and so forth. But then again, when we have expansion and there's going to be more drainage pipes and more infrastructure that's going to be messed up. There's also going to be a lot more pollution, if you want to go that way. I don't know if anybody's actually ever gone out to these areas. I know personally where we're at, our reps haven't come out to talk to us. They haven't come out to look at the traffic. They haven't come out to see how bad it is. And this is really just going to impact all of us out there. But I don't know if anybody's ever come out to actually look, has actually come out and talked to the owners. My rep isn't even here tonight. So we haven't seen him. I don't know if he's gone to talk to other property owners, but not us. Okay. That's all I have. And I apologize, my husband hasn't stepped back in. Obviously, Judy called. I hope I hit his main points. I do know the decision has been made, so I feel like I'm talking to a blank wall, to be honest. Nothing is going to be happening about this. So I just appreciate you taking the time to listen. And I do hope you take it into consideration, even though it's not going to change. I hope the money is allocated appropriately. We all know that there's been problems within Stanislaus County with how money is spent and where it goes and how it's done. And I just hope that it is done appropriately and efficiently. And I hope that some of you do come out and talk to your fellow farmers and see what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We welcome it, actually, because we don't see anybody that comes out. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make public comment?
See how this works.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Richard Caresma, and I 543 Butler Road. And I'm on one of the properties that you guys are thinking about doing the eminent domain on. And the lady before me did a very good job explaining everything. I'm not going to be quite as good as she was, but you sent out the notice, we could appear and speak. And you put 3 items on here that we could talk about. And the first item was whether the public interest and necessity requires the project. And I'm assuming that that's State 132 going out that way. And yeah, we need it. We got a lot of traffic out there. I used it coming in tonight. I said, it's unbelievable. And so I got no objections with that. My objections are with B. You said whether the project is planned and located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury. And that's where I have the question about. 1960, they came out with this plan to build this freeway. They talked to my dad and told him that they were going to require the property if he didn't sell it to them. eminent domain, they would take it by eminent domain. And so he did the best that he could. He didn't want to sell it, but he finally decided he'd sell it, 1963. And they told him in 1963 the same thing that you're telling us now. It's going to be there 2 years, 1 year, or something like that. And so we got control of the property. We took care of it for, after you got it, we took care of it until the state came back and told us they wanted rent on their property. And so we started paying rent way back when, and we still pay rent on it. We still farm it, take care of it, do as best we can with it. The rent's reasonable. There's no problem there. We make a living or we make money on the property, but it originally was ours. It wasn't yours, you know. Okay. The original plan in 1960 was to go from the Needham overpass all the way to the bridge and over to the other side, 4 lanes, all the way, you know. And they started buying the right of way. And like I say, they made it all the way out to my dad's place. You seen it on the map there when the gentleman stood up here, you know, and they got my dad's place, and that was the end of the right of way. So from now they decided, okay, that's the original plan in 1960. As time went on, the original plan got changed. People with power and money, you give them 60 years, they can get things changed. And so the direction of the freeway got changed. Now you go all the way from Needham to Butler, and then you stop at Butler, and that's the original right of way. And now they're curving it over and going through our place, Henriquez's, the Garcias and stuff like the Cardozas and stuff, because they changed the original plan. When you go down this list of all the properties they want to acquire, the first 4 is that little section. It's from Butler Road to Gates Road. And that's where you're going to spend all your money acquiring that right of way and paying for property damages. Because that little section there between Butler and Gates Road, that's where the biggest activity is going to happen. And so between Butler and Gates is 6,000 feet. And you already own 2,000 of it because my dad sold it to you. All you need is another 4,000 feet to get you to Gates Road. To me, that would be the best interest of the public and the best way to spend your money. All you need is 4,000 more feet of right of way. And you wouldn't have to pay all those 4 on the list there and where all that money is going to go. And then the freeway, all you have to do is build 4 more lanes to Gates Road. You don't have to do the interchange and bring Paradise and Gates and all that in there because you're using the original way. Once you get to Gates Road, you're going to have to buy the right of way the rest of the way through to get you to the bridge. You know, that's the problem in the future. And now when you do this, and if you make it 4 lanes, even 2 lanes out there, you're going to put traffic out there. It's going to be unbelievable. And how are you going to get it from Gates Road to the river? That's going to be your biggest problem next. And like I say, if you stick with the original way, that's the best way to get through there. What you're doing now, you're bringing this over, you're tying us into the 132 that's there, you're bringing Paradise and everything, you're putting it right there. How are you going to get from there to the bridge? You know, if you move over half a mile, which it is, and stick to the original way, you know, you'll have a straight shot to that bridge. There will be nothing in your way, you know. And like I say, you're spending all your money here on these 4 properties and everything. So, okay, let me see the last thing here. So the last question was whether this property, our property, my property, is required for this. If you go back to the old original plan, you don't need the property that you want to purchase now from us. My dad sold you the original property and you got the right of way to go through the place. It won't cost you a dime, you know. So anyway, that's where I'm at here. I was just the 3 questions that you had there. I'm trying to get it so eminent domain, you don't take our property now and make us go through this process and wind up with our property. You got it from my dad in 63 and you haven't touched it since. And with this new design, you're not even going to use it all. You're just going to use partial, which you bought from a dad, so. Are you going to do that again? Are you going to take our property again? And now it's a lot more. This parcel now is bigger than the first parcel. Are you going to take it again? And then in 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, you decide, hey, we don't need it. We're not going to use it. What happens to us? You didn't come back to us the first time after 60 years and say, hey, we'll offer it back to you, because we're not using part of it. Or for a while there, you weren't using any of it like that. So like I say, if you're going to take it this time from us, make sure you're going to use it. But I don't want our property on that list of eminent domain. Take it off. Go back to the original way, the original freeway that goes through there. And like I say, and leave us alone. You don't need that partial. You already have the right of way to go through our place. Use that right of way and leave us alone. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I appreciate you listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Any others like to make public comment? Thing online? Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the policy board for comments, further questions, and eventually a motion. Go ahead, Charlie.
Well, I mean, obviously, we hate to take anyone's property and, some of what the gentleman says and the lady before him, I especially from their point of view, I can understand. But I mean, we have to ask ourselves, if we never took any property, if things just stayed and we never did anything, what would I-5 look like? What would 99 look like? Would we have reservoirs? Would we have, a lot of the things that we have to have? And I think, item number 2 here, where it says a project is planned or located in the manner that'll be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury, applies to all these. And I think, as sad as it is for the property owners, it has to be done because it's in the best interest of this county and the entire state.
David?
Yeah, question, and Terry, you might answer this. You've been around here a long time. Was this a different route than originally that was proposed back in the 60s?
I don't know the exact original route. I don't think Tony probably knows that either, what the original route was planned 60 years ago.
I don't know totally, but maybe, I don't know in that regards, but I personally don't know what the original route was. When we started working on it, there was an environmental document that considered 5 different alternatives that Caltrans worked on with the county, and that had public hearings and discussion, and that was approved in 2022. And that was the basis that we have used to move forward with the design and right-of-way acquisitions.
Out of the 5 different routes, was this the least
harm?
Based upon the environmental analysis, taking into consideration all the different impacts associated with it, this route was selected as the preferred alternative.
Any other comments, questions?
I have a question regarding the impact of the acreage being lost for the number of cattle or cows that people are able to have on their property. Are the estimates, is that included in any of the estimates, or is it simply for the cost of the property, the land?
Well, first I want to comment that the resolution necessity basically does not take into account, the value of the offer. It's just basically asking you for a finding. An offer has been made, and we will continue to work with the property owners, and we actually encourage them to review the appraisers and get their own appraisers and provide counter offers where we can take into account those things such as damages associated with it and continue to negotiate going forward. So I can't speak specifically to that, but for the process here tonight, compensation is not what is included in particular.
Okay. Then as far as the original route planned, from what was being described, is it would be just a direct route. And I'm not sure exactly. If you recall, I brought that map from 1961 that my aunt and uncle gave me. I don't have it here tonight, and I don't know if it was anything official or not. I will be interested to go back and look at that. But ultimately, is the plan to go to Interstate 5? Like eventually?
I think eventually there will be additional planning and effort that will have to take place to look at what happens from Gates to the county line. Right. So that's a separate effort and planning effort that would have to be undertaken in the future by Caltrans and Stancon.
And what bridge, do you know, was referred to? And
I
Okay.
personally, I don't know.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you. Wow.
Any other comment?
Can I say something again?
No, sir. Public comments are, if you know the name of the bridge, come on up and you can say it.
I don't have the bridge, but I was here in 1960 when they deal to get the right of way. I was out there. My dad did it. I was a sophomore in high school, and I can remember everything that went at that time.
Okay.
And so when you sit in here, you don't know what you hire a gentleman here that doesn't know the facts. Like that, I sit there and I tell you should use your original way. Nobody here knows your original way. How are you going to make a decision tonight
Sir,
if you don't have?
sir. That's enough. Thank you. Go ahead, Terry.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I don't want to blame Tony for this. Of all the alternatives, I'm sure one of them was the original way as we went through this process. So, yeah, it's not, Richard, it's not Tony's fault. I don't want you to think, I think that was all considered, all these different options were considered before they came to this one. This is probably the hardest thing that we do, I think, as elected officials here to represent our constituents, is to be in these situations, and that we do it. We get to do it, unfortunately, more often on the Board of Supervisors probably than anybody else has to do it. But it's a miserable thing to have to go through just for what you guys are having to go through. And don't think we take it lightly at all to do this. It's very painful for us to try to figure these things out and try to figure out what's for the public good, what's in the best interest of the public. And sometimes we end up in these spots where we are right now. Mary Ann, I haven't met you before. Is Mary Ann still here? Okay. Yeah, I haven't met Mary Ann. I've sat in her father-in-law's living room. I know him, Pete, very well. And I've been out there with Tony as we've she said her representative wasn't here. I'm the representative. I represent this area of the county is mine. I'm your supervisor. And so I've been very much involved in this for the last 10 years of my life as we've been working and trying to get this thing through. And our ultimate goal, as we talk about in the slide presentation here, is to try to get goods and services in and out of our county, save lives, safe roads, and to help preserve, it's just, I always say this, but to help preserve our agricultural industry, which is the #1 industry in this county. We've got to be able to get goods and services that we grow here in this county in and out of here, or they won't farm here anymore. We'll lose the ability to, anyway, bad things will happen. And so that's part of the driving force behind us, not just the safety of the roads, but to get our agriculture industry's goods in and out of here is crucial. It was 60 years ago. Unfortunately, it's taken this long for this to happen. Our goal here at this point is to make sure that everybody is fairly compensated for what's going on here, that we find a way to compensate, as the Verbergs talked about, and Sue made reference to, that we look at the future value, earnings capacities and things like that, the loss of cows that can't be on the farm anymore, all these things. We look at all this to try to make sure that, again, that we compensate everybody fairly for what we're doing here. So Again, this is 60 years in the making. It's too bad it didn't happen 60 years ago. Unfortunately, things changed. Different governors, different things happened over the years that caused projects to be ended. But I still feel very strongly this is a needed project, very needed project in this county. It's been needed for years, and I know that it will save lives. I know that it will help industry. It'll help our ag industry, and again, we don't take this lightly at all. What we're doing here, and this is not as hard as it is for you guys. That's for sure. There's no way that what we're doing here is as hard as what it is for you to have to sell this land and sell these pieces here. But we do, anyway, I'll speak for myself, that we do feel that this is the right thing to do for the good of the public. And as representatives of the public as a whole, sometimes we're in these situations where we have to weigh, winners and losers, and it is no fun at all. But we're hoping that this is the right thing to do for the good of the residents of Stanislaus County.
Thank you, Terry. Any other comments, questions?
I guess I will add, because I agree with everything Terry had just spoke of. It is a terrible, with what do they say, with great power comes great responsibility. And people don't take it lightly. When you talk about least harm, it doesn't mean that people aren't harmed, because someone could be completely devastated. North County Corridor, I think we've been through this on the board, and you take someone's house they've lived in for 100 years or 70 years, or it's been in the family for 100 years, and they're harmed completely. But it's the totality, and I shared a lot of your views before I was on the board, and then you have to make decisions. It comes to building infrastructure, and when they go through this exhaustive process, I think it was about 2016 that the board prioritized this. Measure L passed, and this was the #1 priority on the Measure L list, also to build something that had been idle for 60 years. It takes our partner agency, Caltrans, to get funding, and because we're applying through the state of California, and they have to be a partner agency, they have to agree that it meets the criteria for safety, because you get points based on, and everyone I know that has lived in this valley for more than 20 or 30 years knows someone who's died on that road. So there's a huge safety component. It went through the middle of town, the first phase that Modesto had completed, by a couple of schools. It's a disadvantaged area, air quality with the stop signs and stop lights. So the air quality improvement is going to immensely improve by keeping traffic moving, trucks that are going, generally handling ag products. So it is a tough situation, but again, when you go through this process step by step and you choose out of the alternatives, it comes down to what the least harm as one of the main components. So and again, I'm a farmer, as you can tell. I just came from the farm, and I live this. TID they haven't had to go through the wrong process because we sold them property, but I understand. But again, I'm going to support this. It's terrible. I want you to know that in the pricing and the negotiations, you have to, talk about those things that are not something that's historical for you, but the real loss to your property, and you'll be compensated for it. So, and I just want to reiterate a lot of what Terry said.
Move to approve.
I have a first.
I second that.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
I second that motion.
I have a first and a second. Go ahead with the roll call, please.
Member Chiesa,
Aye.
Chair Condit,
Aye.
Member Withrow,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Aye.
Member Swallen,
Aye.
Member Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Member Wright,
Aye.
Member Graham, Member Gilbert,
Aye.
Member Gokin,
Aye.
and Member Lopez.
Aye.
One more time.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
I'd like to make sure I clarify that the action you're taking is for each one of the resolutions for each one of the parcels. So I just want to make sure that's clarified for the record.
Yes, for all of them. Okay, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break from here, and then we'll re-adjourn back in 5 minutes. And we are now on 8D, motion to approve the 2026 StanCog Policy Board and Committee meeting schedule. Jean Folletta.
Thank you. Next slide. So the committee meetings and the agenda schedules are in front of you. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you, Jean.
Mhm.
Anybody have any questions? Open up to the public. Does the public have any comment on the agenda item? Anything online? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
I have a first and a second. Janet, did you get who made them? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. All right. Going on the agenda is the informational items. Hopefully everybody has had a chance to take a look at that. And now we're on to our Caltrans report, and we have Grace and Caleb here tonight. Thank you guys for being here.
Good evening, Chair and members of the board. Glad to be here tonight. I promise I will be quick. We just recently were informed that we have a new acting chief deputy at headquarters. His name is Dave Moore, and he is coming in after an interim had also done a 2-month assignment. I believe Dave Moore will be staying a little longer than the 2 months in the previous one. Dave Moore comes from District 2. He is the district director, and District 2 is the Reading area and on the north part of our state. So we're looking forward to having him in that leadership role, and most of us directors are very familiar with him and his leadership style, so we're very happy to have him there. And just as a reminder, our 2026-27 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant applications are due next week, November 21st. Please reach out to Tom Dumas or Steve Martinez of our staff if you have any questions or need assistance. And congratulations to Stanislaus County. I remember I saw Dave Lehman at the CTC meeting last month. The final environmental impact report for the replacement of the 7th Street Bridge was approved by the commission, and so this pretty much allows the project to move into the next phase of development. And lastly, just want to report that this past Monday, city staff and our district planning staff met to kick off the recently approved $508,000 Sustainability Community Planning Grant funded by SB1. And the scheduled completion of this plan is June 2028. And we are looking forward to seeing how the transportation needs and infrastructure will be studied with the upcoming ACE train extension and new potential developments downtown. And with that, concludes my report this evening, not this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace. Caleb, you have anything?
Here to chaperone the
Yeah,
boss
thank
tonight.
you. I just wanted to give you a hard
He
time.
drove me, so.
Okay. Any questions for Grace or Caleb? All right. Thank you guys very much for being here tonight. All right. Next on the agenda is our interim executive director report. This is Kate Miller.
Thank you, Chair. So I very much appreciate the warm welcome by board members, staff, and our partnering agencies. Staff has been extraordinarily cooperative, enthusiastic, and immensely helpful as we review and update our many policies and processes in preparation for the next executive director. I have met with roughly half of you to date, and I'm looking forward to meeting with the remaining board members to solicit input on how the agency can improve accountability and transparency. I continue to schedule meetings with city managers and the county executive staff. I have also started discussions with leaders from the San Joaquin Valley COG executives, and I have also met with the Stanislaus Regional Transit and Turlock Transit. I'd also tonight like to introduce a new staff member, Cassandra Barrientos, who joined StanCog as an associate transportation planner focusing on transit and transportation demand management programs. Cassandra comes to StanCog with several years of experience, most recently from the Yolo Transportation District. Cassandra holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Policy and Planning from the University of California at Davis. Warm welcome to you, Cassandra. I think, is she standing up? Can you see her? Good, great. Last week, I attended the Self-Help County Coalition's Focus on the Future conference in San Francisco. As a reminder, the Self-Help County Coalition is an organization that supports counties in the state with transportation sales taxes. While at the conference, I attended the Self-Help County Coalition board meeting representing Stan Cog, and this meeting provides essential policy updates associated with the work we do. And to make you all feel better, I only charged you for that hour while I was at the conference. Let's see, several members of the board, including members Escucha Brayton, Wright, Carr, Zuellen, and Lopez, along with Stan Cog staff members Jose Luis Caceres and Cassandra Barrientos, attended the San Joaquin's rebranding event. The former San Joaquin service is now called the Gold Runner, and the rebranding is a larger effort to improve service to the San Joaquin Valley. I think you've already heard a number of updates about the California Transportation Commission meeting last week, and we did pretty well. Thank you, Jose Luis, for attending that meeting, and we will keep you posted on future meetings. And then just a quick update on the federal shutdown. Last Wednesday, President Donald Trump signed the Continuing Appropriations Agriculture Legislative Branch Military Construction and Veterans Affairs and Extension Act of 2026, formally ending the longest shutdown in American history and fully restoring operations of the federal government. Lawmakers are hopeful that its passage demonstrates potential to build upon this bipartisan, bicameral progress by advancing other bills in the fiscal year 2026 appropriation process. The Senate is preparing to take up a 4-bill minibus spending package this week. The package is expected to include the following spending bills: transportation, housing and urban development, and related agencies, otherwise known as the THUD bill, commerce, justice, science, and related agencies, labor, health, and human services, and related agencies, and defense. The 4 bills would jointly authorize $1 trillion worth of discretionary spending through the end of 2026. It would represent a proactive step forward since lawmakers have until January 30th, 2026 to reach an agreement on these 4 spending bills, as well as 5 other remaining spending bills, and we will keep you apprised on their progress. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Kate? Great job, Kate. There's no questions.
Or it was so boring. Who knows?
And welcome, Cassandra. Welcome to the team. Great to have you here tonight.
Glad to be here.
All right. Member reports. Any member reports?
I brought one. The highlight for this month is the installation of traffic calming measures on Wiley Avenue, the corridor between Rose Avenue and Oakdale Road in front of Rose Avenue Elementary will receive traffic calming speed cushions. This Measure L funding project is part of the ongoing construction of the neighborhood traffic calming program. That's it.
Thank you,
Short
Mayor.
little report from Modesto.
Thank you for the Measure L work that's being done in the city of Modesto on that report. I know I asked for that quite a while back for people to bring some forward to show the policy board what's going on with Measure L in their own districts or cities. And I didn't bring one. So next time. Go ahead, George.
Okay. I don't have any sort of report, but I do want to offer everybody in the room a very happy and joyful Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with your families. Don't eat too much and watch lots of football.
All right. Any other reports?
I have a traffic calming report. So, we open up a new In-N-Out corner of Oakdale and Sylvan. I notice the traffic's real slow now. So, yes, if we don't need speed bumps, we just got to open up an In-N-Out, Well, and thank you, Oakdale and Riverbank, for supporting that and making that one of the best In-N-Outs in Modesto.
I do have a report, and it was given us, man, having a hard time spitting that out. It was told to us last night that BNSF will be closing the railroad crossing on Clarabelle at Terminal from Friday to Sunday, I believe. And so with Roselle already closed, if I were you and on people online, stay away from that area because it's going to be a mess.
Shop Modesto.
All right. All right. Moving on. We do have closed session tonight. Monica, you want to give a report on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The policy board will be adjourning to closed session to discuss items 13A and B as identified on the agenda.
Okay. We'll be adjourned into closed session.
No? You never know. You never know when the real humdingers are gonna come.
Yep.
I don't get to be in the meetings. I don't get to know when the good stuff is on its way.
Adjourned.